we've got another guest, and my guest will introduce himself right now.
Hi, Scott Dupont, calling from Hollywood, California. Good morning.
So that sounded like a news section. So we wanted to talk about a movie which we both didn't like, and the movie is called The Beekeeper.
Well, it's always good to have differing opinions. Nothing wrong with that. Movies are very subjective. I actually did like it. Wasn't perfect. I don't think there is anything as a perfect movie, but I went in being a big Jason Statham fan, and it was quite a thrill ride. So I really enjoyed it.
See, I'm a Jason Statham fan as well, and I enjoyed that aspect, but like from the story wise and it had like logical plot holes to me. So I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to, but the action was really good, and like it was like on the Jason Statham level of action.
And that's what I think a lot of Jason Statham fans go into a movie theater for, that experience, is to see that action, that adrenaline, that rush. And some of his movies have fantastic storylines. I think The Homefront was one of the best stories. Um, but I enjoyed overall the story of the Beekeeper as well. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I would give it a 9, 8.5 or a 9.
Wow. I would give it a, I don't know, like I don't want to be like too mean, but let's say 4 of 10. Because like my biggest thing with that movie was like, yes, the action was perfect, but like the story, like it had some holes in the plot. Like we they were like this what's it called? The beehive, and then it really, to me, like it wasn't explained um much, like furthermore. Like
Well, the Beehive could have been confusing to some people. I mean, I ended up getting it when they showed those graphics and they did the narration. I think what I liked about the story was the corruption in the US presidency that happens with some administrations, as well as the massive influence by large corporations, special interests, and lobbyists that not only sometimes get to a president, and I'm not pointing out a specific president in US history. I'm just saying in general, this has happened. Um, and that influence, let's say, can infiltrate to a lot of the different arms of government, including the FBI, the CIA, the Justice Department. And certainly there's certainly some questions about what's going on right now with the US government. Um, the truth will be sorted out eventually, hopefully, because we always want to get to the truth. And I thought that was very interesting, that no government is perfect. All governments around the world can be influenced. And Jason Statham has always been, in most of his movies, the little guy, the man of the people, who's standing up for justice. And he certainly stood up for the short-lived heroine who got killed in the Beekeeper.
hmm when you said like the president, the corruption, I immediately thought about Hillary Clinton versus Trump.
Yeah, I mean, people say Trump is very corrupt. He's on trial right now for 700 years in jail. People say Hillary Clinton was corrupt for deleting 300 emails that she was specifically subpoenaed for. People say that Joe Biden is corrupt for possibly taking tens of millions of dollars from China, Russia, and Romania. People say that George Bush was corrupt. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And it's not just in the US government, and we've seen it in other governments around the world. And I think because of all of this, and because of the power of the internet, I mean, I'm on this podcast thanks to the internet from Los Angeles all the way to Vienna.
Mhm.
More and more people are tuning out of mainstream media sources, including the BBC, which used to be one of the trusted in Europe.
Mhm.
Um, and they're doing their own research and they're seeing what they see with their own eyes. A great example is we're told over and over again that inflation is not that bad, it's transitory, no problem. We can afford to keep spending money like a drunken sailor. But I think when most Americans, and I'm just speaking for our country over here,
Mhm.
they
Yeah,
can
like,
see that gas, which used to be $2 or $3 a gallon, is $4 to $6 a gallon,
oh, I know.
$7 in some states. They can see that the price of eggs has doubled. So people see the real experience, right?
Mhm. Yeah, like the majority of my listeners are from the US, and also my best friend is also from the US, and when she like tells me how much she spent on a gallon or like on groceries, I'm like, oh my God. Like I'm s- like we haven't had some inflation out here as well, but not to that extent of the US or like Turkey, for example.
So a great expression I learned about politics years ago, and I think this translates to movies,
Mhm.
is when people go to the voting polls, they don't give a damn about the politician. They don't give a damn about what they heard in the speech. They're they're only thinking about themselves in a very selfish way, and they're thinking about their families. And I think that's a great analogy. When people go to the voting polls, they can overlook somebody that might be tweeting mean things, or they can overlook a presidential candidate that forgets things all the time and falls down once in a while. If they think that candidate is going to give them the best life experience and the best inflation reduction or keep them safe from world wars. And I think going back to Jason Statham, people love those heroes. They love real vigilante heroes that they think are looking out for the little guy, that are looking out for the people.
Yes, you're so right. Like I don't have anything to say to that because like I think you see it in like you see it like around the world when it comes to like elections and yeah, just it's I guess it's just like this human thing that we don't we don't care who it is, but we just care like how this person can like better our country or you know
Yeah,
like
what's best for them? What's best
what
for them and their family?
yes. And so speaking of Jason Statham, what is your favorite Jason Statham movie?
Oh God, I've got so many. I mean, I loved him in some of the Expendables movies, but I would think Homefront
Mhm.
is one of my favorite ones. James Franco, big fan of his. I'm a friend of his. Um, it's just a great movie. Kind of like set in the deep South. I can relate to that. I grew up in the South for a few years. Um, Another great vigilante story, a guy that was basically sticking up for these evil meth dealers or whatever kind of drugs they were cooking up down by the bayou.
My favorite Jason Momoa no Jason Statham movie is Cast Truck, but I think that has a different
Transporter.
no, not Transporter. It's What's the English name? Because they changed the name in Germany and Austria to Castra, but it's called a Wraith of a Man, I think.
Oh, Wrath of a
Yeah,
Man.
Wrath of a Man with Post Malone in it. He dies while he was in it.
Great movie as well.
But yes, I love that one, and
Pretty
also
recent one.
um, I loved Hobbs and Shaw. Um, what else? What else? There was one Jason Statham movie. Um,
Yeah, Homefront, Redemption was another good one. Parker was a great one with God, what's her name? Jennifer Lopez. That was set in Palm Beach. Beautiful cinematography showing how beautiful Palm Beach is. The Mechanic was a great one.
is it this one I'm looking for?
And then, of course, the Transporter series is what really kicked him off. Transporter 1, 2, and 3.
Oh yes, that one. I like that one as well. But there was this with what's her name? Melissa McCarthy. It's a spy one.
Yeah, I forget the name of that.
Yeah, I'm looking on IMDb.
A little bit of a comedy.
Something with spy. I remember. That's the name. Wait, let's. I just like scrolled down to 2001. I'm like, that wasn't that around that time. Um.
Anyway, great actor. I like the Beekeeper, and he's got a bright career in front of him. He's still young.
Is it this one? What it's called? Oh no, it's called Spy. Spy. Okay, Spy.
Yes.
But I also enjoy him as like in the Fast and Furious franchise. Um.
Yep, me too. Great franchise. Fun franchise there.
Oh, also I also enjoyed him in Operation Fortune. It was also funny with Hugh Grant. And yeah, I didn't enjoy Expendables 4. I don't know. My expectations were higher, and I
The
didn't.
first 1 and 2 were great. It's
Yeah,
very tricky in a franchise to keep the story going, and the studios and or the producers oftentimes will try to reduce the budget a little bit because they've got an audience hooked. And if you shortchange the story, it doesn't matter how many special effects, how many stunts, how many fights, it's never as good as the original one if they start with a great story.
yes,
Story is always key.
yes, but like I don't know, like the story of it wasn't really great because like, mm, wait, what's the name I'm looking for in my head? Like for example, like this like Megan Fox's story in this one, like in the fourth one, was like I don't know, she wasn't really like told better, like told the way I wanted to probably be told.
I don't think the third and fourth were as good as the first one or the second one. I would agree.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
people still showed up. They love seeing these 80s and 90s action stars.
Mm,
And just like Fast and the Furious, it's a very fun franchise, and people go out into theaters and see them.
yeah, I really enjoyed the 10th one. 10th? Yeah, 10th one. And I cannot wait for the 10th part 2 one. Cause like that cliffhanger was too like, oh, I was like, what's going on? I was so like invested that after it ended, I was like, I want more. Like, but we know we have to wait. But I don't know. I'm also very excited for Hobbs and Shaw too. I just love like Dwayne's and The Rock's and Jason Statham's chemistry together. They're like
Yeah, both great action stars.
they're like bickering back and forth. I enjoy that.
Any other movies you want to talk about?
Um, I had this question in my mind. Now I forgot about it. I forgot the question. So, what are your favorite action movies?
Well, one of my favorite movies of all time is Braveheart by Mel Gibson. I believe it won 11 or 13 Academy Awards, literally won, not just nominated. Um, it had action, it had battle scenes, it had revenge, it had romance, it had a few moments of comedy. It had history, based upon a true story, inspired by true events. It had a little bit of everything. Um, so I would definitely say that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
I have seen that movie, but I was young. I don't really remember anything
Yeah, it's
about
an
it.
older movie. It
But
still holds up today. I would
I
strongly recommend to anyone in the audience if they want to see one of the best films of all time. Like I said, it won, not just nominated, it won 11 or 13 Academy Awards, swept the Academy Awards.
I'm so excited how well Oppenheimer will do.
Yeah, yeah, great movie. I think there were a couple other movies that are going to give it a run for the money. Um, I think American Fiction was one
Hmm.
of the just brilliant stories told this year. As a voting member of the PGA as well as SAG-AFTRA, um, I have to vote on all these movies. I thought The Holdovers was great.
Hmm.
Um, and I also thought The Burial was a fantastic movie. Didn't get a lot of press, but Jamie Foxx, Tommy Lee Jones, one of my favorite movies of the whole season. I actually went back and watched it a second time.
I have to
Um,
still.
and then Barbie, I didn't see it at first because I'm not a big kind of animated or playland type movies. Guys, that's not my cup of tea. I had also heard incorrectly that it was overly woke and all these political messages in there. And when I finally saw it, I didn't find that at all. It was just really a really fun, like dancing around the couch, um, enjoyable movie. Thought it was a fun romp.
I love Barbie. But America Ferrera was very good in that one. Also, her like speech was very touching. I cried. I was crying. Well, I was like, then I was crying, but also the end when Margot Robbie and there's Barbie, like when What Was I Made For is being played, and then like you see the mothers and the children, and I hugged my mom afterwards, like I love you, thank you for everything. It was
Yeah, yeah, I
very
thought it
emotional.
was great. I really
And,
enjoyed the movie, and I've been encouraging other people outside of the PGA or SAG that are not really having to watch all the movies to vote on them. Like they asked me, what are some of the movies? I said, make sure you check out Barbie. It's a great movie.
and also like it and like what is your opinion on it not getting nominated for the Oscars, but um Ryan Gosling
For
being
for for Greta and Margot Robbie,
Mhm.
I think not nominating Greta
He's a cry.
was a tragedy
Yeah.
because it was such an incredible undertaking.
Hmm.
And I looked at this. I'm a producer myself, so
Yeah.
I put together movies. I make movies, and uh, Margot was the producer, Greta was the director. The filmmakers being overlooked, I thought was pretty tragic. There are a lot of great acting performances.
Mhm.
Uh, I think Margot probably should have gotten nominated, but that's just the way it falls. She's still young. She's going to have plenty of opportunities. Um, I did think that my friend Ryan Gosling, he did a great job, but Greta was probably the biggest disappointment. I think she should have gotten nominated for director.
Hmm. Yeah, she didn't. and I was so
But you know, that
I was
happens.
very bad because like she did such an amazing job, and then they didn't nominate. Hey, at least the Anatomy of a Fall director got nominated this year.
Yeah, I mean, it once again, it's not a perfect science.
Mhm.
Um, every once in a while, the Academy, the demographics are shifting. It used to be just a bunch of older people. They're getting some new young blood in the Academy now. And what does happen is if somebody is consistently overlooked um, in their 30s or 40s, they will usually have the opportunity to get nominated and win an award later on in life. So part of it is not only the movie or the acting performance. Great example of this is Denzel Washington, who was just tragically overlooked, not only in my opinion, but a lot of people in Hollywood who
I
saw the
love them
movie The
so much.
Hurricane, one of the best dramas of all time. I would rate it my second or third favorite movie.
Mhm.
And he got snubbed. I mean, literally, even some of the cameras at the Academy Awards, they they looked at his face and they go, "Wow, that was a shock." It's almost like a Super Bowl playback. But he got rewarded the next year for Training Day. So the Academy will ultimately reward actors, producers, directors if they're overlooked one particular year.
So speaking of actors, the directors, who do you think will win the category for best directing?
You know, it's tough to say. I think it might be tied to Best Picture. Um, two pictures I forgot to overlook were I really think it probably Greta really should have been in the running, but two of the pictures I forgot to mention. One is God, it's the World War II drama, and I should have had my list in front of me. Do you know the movie I'm talking about? It's
Uh,
the house set right next door to Auschwitz,
I know the Zone of Interest.
the zone of interest. Now, the
I
reason I think it got overlooked
Mhm.
is it's probably going to win international picture.
Yep.
And that's the way that goes sometimes. Um, but anyway, I just don't have a clear vision of who's going to win best director, but there's a lot of great candidates this year.
But like, would you say like Scorsese or who's the other one? Steven Spielberg or like Christopher Nolan? Who are you rooting for?
I don't really have I'm really usually very, very decisive on the directors. I'm not. I mean, I really would have thought Greta could have won, and since she's not even nominated, um, Scorsese's won before. I did like Flowers of the Killer Moon. However,
There's of the Flower Moon.
yeah. However, and it was a great movie. I just think it was a little bit long, and I think audiences are getting a little tired of 3.5 hour movies. And I think
Unless it's Batman, the Batman, then it's like justified.
well, I don't know. I think audiences are really we have the attention span with all these iPads and smartphones and computer screens and DM'd. We're getting overwhelmed with technology and notifications, and people are tending to want tighter, faster running movies. Full stop. I'm hearing that from all my producer friends in the industry.
I understand, but like sometimes it's like a good thing that those movies exist because like as a like a Christopher Nolan one for example, you can't chop that up like chop it in like I don't know, like a 1 hour or 2 hour movie.
No, I'm not saying a 1 hour, but I think 2 hours or less is a safer way to attract audiences, and a better chance of winning awards. So Oppenheimer's a great example. I really liked the story. It was a fascinating look into history, but I myself, and I saw it in the Directors Guild Theater, which is a massive theater.
Oh.
Everybody on the way down to the parking lot when we left said, great movie, but a little bit long. Everybody. And you can't overlook what audiences, if they keep telling you and telling you and telling you over again, and Hollywood doesn't necessarily pay attention to this. And that's why I think indie filmmakers, if they're really smart, they pay attention to what audiences want. They listen to their friends and family. They trust their gut when they see theaters. And Napoleon's a great example. Kevin Walsh is a great friend of mine. He
Mhm.
produced that movie. It was a fascinating historical look. I think he and his team did a great job of weaving the romance and the letter writing back and forth between Josephine, that I guess the character's name, but
Mhm.
it was a little too long, and I think that hurt Napoleon a little bit.
But so I had the feeling when I watched Napoleon, that all like the French Revolution thingy, it wasn't even in this one. And I'm so excited for the 4 hour version because then we can like really dive into that aspect.
And there's a time and place for that, right? I think a 4 hour version is great for the History Channel,
Mm.
an A&E mini series. So there are stories, like the recent Godfather miniseries.
Oh yeah, the
Um,
offer.
the author?
Now that
The offer, yeah, the offer. So I really got into that, but I was expecting, I don't know how long it is, 8 or 10 hours over many, many episodes. And that's great. Those types of stories, if you're trying to do a historical thing, that's the format, not for movies. People want to go out on a Saturday night to be entertained. And if it's a little bit too long, if you lose their attention span even for 10 minutes, it can hurt a movie.
I just checked and the offer was like 10 episodes
It was
long.
great. I loved all of them.
Yeah,
But
me
I was
too.
going in as a huge fan of Albert Ruddy,
Mm.
and as a filmmaker myself, fascinated with 70s
Mm.
Hollywood history, because that's the first time I came out to Hollywood, was either 76 or 77. So I was willing to invest 10 hours or however long 10 episodes ended up being over a week or two of time to watch that. And I loved it.
Yeah, I watched that and then I watched like The Godfather again. I was like, it's just so good. Like I think that was the best thing that I watched in the year 2022. Like series wise, besides others, but like that one was on my
Hmm.
top list. Um, you were talking about the movies you have produced.
Yeah, so I just wanted to just kind of follow up with the time length of movies. Um, there was the most recent movie that I helped produce, just came about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It got released wide on 20 different platforms. It's called Burt Reynolds, The Last Interview with Quentin Tarantino. And there's a lot of Burt Reynolds fans still out there. I mean, he was the biggest movie star of all time. He was number one at the box office for 10 years, 5 years of those in a row, which no other actor has ever done in history. So we could have made it a 2.5 hour movie. but we chose not to because we're listening to the audience, and the audiences are not wanting to see longer films. And I believe the total running time came in less than 100 minutes. And the critics answered 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Movie critics absolutely love the movie. So anyway, that's just a quick note how we're listening as filmmakers to what audiences want.
Oh, he was an American Dad, or he is an American Dad.
He did well over 80 films. And what was remarkable about Burt Reynolds when I went to his studio is seeing poster after poster after poster. And a lot of actors can say that over years, but he was one of the few people where every single movie poster, he was the big picture. It wasn't just, he was one of the 4 or 5 or 6 starring movie stars. He was the star, or he was one of 2 co-stars. I mean, that's how big Burt Reynolds was.
That's so cool. Like when you said Burt Reynolds, I was like, let me check him out. And then because I sometimes like my guests are telling me about actors, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. And then I like go onto my IMDb page, and then I look up, and then I saw that he was an American Dad, or he is an American Dad. So I want to like, I know you have to go, but you are like in the industry and you're like in the guilds and you use the ballots during award season. What what's like how did you get into that? And can you like tell me how that works?
Sure. So I started out about 30 years ago as an actor. And if any of your audience members are movie buffs, you like watching movies and you thought about being an actor, just like I did 30 plus years ago, I
Mm-hmm.
quickly became a frustrated actor because the audition process to get even considered, and then if you're lucky enough to audition, get a call back, get a final meeting with a studio film or a big budgeted film that's going to be meaningful, it's almost like winning the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
So sitting on the sidelines of all these big movies, I started in my career in Central Florida at the time in the 1990s when Universal Studios Florida had just been built, Disney MGM Studios Florida, Miramax Studios. There was a lot of stuff going on in Central Florida. And I realized very quickly I could sit outside the audition rooms. Even if I was lucky enough to get in, I would probably not be able to have an acting career, at least not within 5 or 10 years that I wanted to. Or I could take my own destiny in my own hands, take control, if you will, by starting to produce my own projects. So that's what I started doing. And I've been producing, do a little bit of acting still, but I've been producing ever since for, well over 25 years. And the past few years, I've been helping other people find their money, because that's the key. If you have money, you can hire the right team. You can hire a director. You can put together a great movie if you have money. It all starts with money. So that's what I've been doing the last 3 or 4 years, is helping other people that have big, big dreams. They might have just an idea. They might have read a book. It's a best-selling book and they want to turn it into a movie. So it's been really satisfying to help other people bring their dream projects to the screen and become a reality.
Oh, I love that. But like the thing with the actor, like being a frustrating actor. Jeanette Walmsley also said that to me when we talked, that it's so frustrating for her, like continuing to, like going from audition to audition and then being rejected and then going from audition to audition again and then being rejected again. So especially I felt that way, especially like we talked during the WGA strike, and it just I have so much empathy for the writers and the actors during that time.
It's brutal. It's brutal. And that's why I started raising my own money and producing my own films, because every film that I do, if I want to, I can put myself in that film. And my clients they're all raising their money to do their own films. Some of them are putting themselves as the star of the film. They're great actors.
Mhm.
Others of them are making themselves the director because they've directed many, many short films. They've directed music videos, and they're not going to get a chance to direct a big feature film unless they go make the money. So it's a way life is very, very short. I don't want to sound cynical. I know you're younger than me,
Yeah.
but life really is short, and you don't want to waste years and years auditioning or hoping that somebody's going to cast you or hoping that someone's going to find your script. It's like, oh, we'll make this over the 1,000 other amazing scripts we see in Hollywood every single week. So if you take a little bit of control and you have a plan, this is a golden age of filmmaking where you can now, with these small digital cameras, some people are literally making movies for theaters on their iPhones with the right lenses,
Mhm.
with the LED lights that we could have only dreamed of 20 years ago, and the software that's pennies on the dollar. You can make a film, a feature-length film, either a documentary or narrative, for 20 or 30 cents on the dollar, what I used to have to raise money for 20 years ago. It is a filmmaker's renaissance. And then on the back end, you get to make your movie for much, much cheaper than I used to have to pay for my first movies. Not only that, your movie doesn't have to go to theaters. It doesn't even have to go to a cable outlet. There's unlimited number of streaming platforms.
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity to make a movie for much less budget, and there's an opportunity for millions of people around the world to see your movie. It's a filmmaker's renaissance right now.
I love that. That's so inspiring. I want to shoot my own movie now.
Well, if you want to, you can just go to, or any of your audience listening, you can go to financeyourmovie.com. And I have a free podcast all over the world. It drops every single week. It gives you some tips and ideas and hopefully some inspiration of any of your audience. Maybe they're writers, maybe they're actors, maybe they're aspiring directors. There's no reason with a solid plan and some determination that you can't make your own movie. No reason in this time in history.
That's so correct. Phew. Okay.
And by the way,
Yep.
on that note, we also did a documentary that I was one of the producers on a couple of years ago that's very, very inspirational. And it has been empowering to dozens and dozens of filmmakers to go make their own film. And the reason we know this is myself, my co-producer, my director, we're getting messages on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on email every single month. Thank you so much for making this documentary. We got inspired. We just went out and made our own movie. And that documentary, if anyone wants to check it out, is called moviemoney.com. Just like it sounds, moviemoney.com, excuse me, Movie Money Confidential. And if you want to watch it, you can go to moviemoney.com. It's a documentary about how everyday people that have a great idea, they can go out and make their own movie.
That's so cool. That's so inspiring. And
It is inspiring. I can't take the credit. I was not the director on that documentary. But yeah, it's a very, very inspiring movie. And dozens and dozens of people have seen that movie. And 6 months, a year later, they made their own movie.
wow.
Sometimes it takes, all it is a little bit of inspiration or an idea or a thought. And you're doing a great job on this podcast, just opening up dialogue so people can talk about movies. And if there's some dreamers out there watching this episode, maybe 2 or 3 people listening right now will have their own movie releasing to theaters or streaming next year. That would be exciting.
Thank you so much. And also, like, before I let you go, plug anything that's going on in your world.
Probably the biggest thing right now is our latest movie. I can't talk. We're doing a faith-based movie, but I can't talk about it quite yet. But if anyone is over the age of 40 and remembers Burt Reynolds, or if you're a Burt Reynolds fan, you definitely want to check out Burt Reynolds, The Last Interview. But if you're younger, you might want to take a look at the movie anyway, because the reason that Quentin Tarantino wanted to be part of this movie is this was the movie star of all time in history that inspired Quentin Tarantino to become a director and to become a filmmaker. It, like, Burt Reynolds inspired Quentin Tarantino's entire career. And little secret that probably nobody listening to your podcast will know, and Quentin talks about this in our documentary, is that Quentin was named after Burt Reynolds.
What?
No one really
I
knows
didn't
that.
know that.
So that's all explained in the documentary. And short version, Quentin's mother was 16 or 17 years old. She was pregnant. Quentin's father had left. So she's all alone. And you can imagine how scared and nervous she was, but she was excited. She's about to give birth to a new baby. And her favorite TV show in the world, she watched every single day, was Gunsmoke, starring Burt Reynolds. He was a big, big TV star before he became a movie star. And so when it came time to name the baby, she was either going to name Quentin Burt, or she decided to name Quentin for Burt's character on the TV show. So that's how Quentin was named.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah, and Quentin became one of the most legendary filmmakers all the time, and he's still pretty young. He's only 60, 65.
But he will like make only one last movie. I'm sad.
Well, he's got one more he's making right now,
Yeah,
and never say never. I think he might make a few more.
hopefully. But he said like he'll only make 10 movies and then it's gone. But I'm hopeful that he will
Yeah,
make
me too.
more. With that being said, thank you so much for taking your time and talking to me and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge about movies and producing movies and then this nugget of Quentin Tarantino's life. And hope you had fun as much
I
as
did. I enjoyed it,
that
and
was
give a shout out to you for hosting this podcast. I know it's a little bit of work to do this,
oh, yeah.
and all my best to movie buffs and movie enthusiasts around the world.
Thanks. I wish you a great day. Yeah,
Take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
You too.